We're coming in hot to give you our hot takes on all the latest mental health news.
From headlines and memes to developments and breakthroughs.
We go into this show blind with the hopes of learning something new.
Before sharing some bunny hugs.
And leaving with our eyes wide open. I'm Nick.
And I'm Todd. And this is Mental Health Headline Hot Takes.
We're glad you're here.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Mental Health Headlines Hot Takes.
I am spinning the wheel to see who goes first. And it landed on, boop, Todd's choice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a nice looking wheel, but I made the arrow so big I can't see what pie it lands on.
I still think you're rigging it.
I'm not. I don't know what the benefit would be. Okay. My choice. You know what? I like when you go first. I know it's...
Oh,
you know
really?
what? No, I'll go first.
Okay.
Because you've gone first the last little while here. So this one is called Health PEIs. That's Prince Edward Island, this province in Canada. New mental health and addictions, ER expected to be a game changer. So health...
This is interesting because I saw an article that sounds like it was the opposite of this. So I'm curious to hear this.
Oh? Yeah,
I didn't pick it, but...
I'm curious what you're going to say about this now. So health PEI, staff and patients are calling Prince Edward Island's new mental health and addictions emergency department, thought to be the first of its kind in Atlantic Canada, game changer. We can take them from the busy waiting room out front and provide a quiet space. This is with CBC by Isabelle Gallant. Or Gallant, maybe? It doesn't matter. The province of Prince Edward Island, which is it's our smallest province, really small population. They have now made in their biggest hospital a different intake ER for mental health. And so it sounds like people get processed quicker.
Where is this located? Is this like
Prince Edward Island? So it's like Atlantic Canada. It's a tiny island.
Okay. So the article I had seen was actually, it was here in the States, but it was ER doctors asking for more support to support mental health patients that come in because they're seeing such an increase. So it's like the opposite problem. So good. Well, let's see if we can find a good solution here.
Okay. So this is, you go into the ER, same ER you would normally, but then if it's a mental health or addictions issue, they take you to a different kind of processing area. So there's not like, people screaming and, an ER is very hectic and busy. And when you're in a mental health crisis, you don't want to sit for, some people are up to 15 hours in the waiting room. So they have kind of more of a nice lounge area and people are, it's a quieter, kind of more calm place for people to sit and wait for their, psychologists or psychiatrists or doctors to come meet them. I mean, it's still a hospital, it's still kind of sterile, but there's no, bells and whistles and people running by, and the room they put you in, it's not just, the walls are loaded with beeping things and whatever. It's, they give you a nice little chair and then you get processed quicker. So you see someone quicker and you're not amongst a bunch of, trauma, physical trauma patients
or sick people
or
flu this time of year. Yeah.
And for myself that has sat in an emergency room before for mental health reasons, I imagine it's pretty nice because I remember sitting there for many hours with my wife and my brother and basically putting a hood over my head because I'm like sobbing and like I'm in a mental health crisis. And there's other people just sitting there reading magazines and stuff. And I'm like, it'd be nice to have a nice quiet place where we could just chill out waiting to see the doctor and stuff. And then, the ambulance comes in and they rush someone in. It was, it's all very scary and weird.
So sometimes I would imagine that there's a blurry line between physical and mental challenges. Do they say anything in there about how they vet that? Because, for example, I know the first time I had a panic attack, I didn't really know I was having a panic attack. And I didn't go to the hospital, and this wasn't that long ago. This was like the fallish. It was cold, so it was probably like November 2022, maybe a little sooner, maybe a little earlier than that, because right around my divorce, right? So it was not how I imagined it would be. Like I wonder how they decipher someone who's maybe having a panic attack versus a heart attack, because either way, that could be like a life or death situation, right?
Right.
And that's just one example, but I'm curious about that.
Well, that's a good question, because a lot of people, it's both.
Yeah.
Whether the physical caused the mental or the mental caused the physical pain. I'm assuming if it's something like that, this is just me assuming. I'm assuming they would take care of the physical first, and you'd be. I guess it depends how big of an emergency it is too. Like,
yeah, I was just curious, like how they're sort of deciding who goes where, or what the system would be there. Because I think that could in itself become kind of like but the output I think is probably a good one. Like you said, like less distractions, less of the energy, for lack of a better word, of what an ER has.
Yeah, I agree. I'm assuming unless it's like really black and white, they just put you in the physical.
Yeah.
ER, I'm guessing, but it's. I think that's a great idea. They've talked about doing something like that here in Saskatchewan. We do get our health funding from our provinces, and there's a family in the city of Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, and they've donated millions of dollars to mental health. And they actually donated a whole like wing of the hospital for something like this a while ago, but to the government and to the people of Saskatchewan, like here's your own emergency area for mental health, but the government wouldn't provide the staffing. So it's like,
I feel like this has
I think they have since then, but
this has been a common theme that comes up, is like there's like these measures that are good on paper, but there's not like the answer on follow through, right? I think we've had a few of these stories where it's like, oh, I like that in theory, but like, how does that translate to actual tangible people doing it, building, all of that stuff, the facility, and allocating parts of the facility.
Well, and that's the other thing with this facility is there are some rooms. I think there's only like 5 or 6 rooms, and it's for like a 2-night stay as opposed to like a long-term stay in the hospital. So it does kind of fill in a bit of that gray area, which a lot of ERs, it's like when I went to the ER for my mental health crisis, was like, well, go home because we don't have room for you.
I remember that.
But it's not like, okay, maybe I didn't need 2 weeks stay, but a couple nights just for observation and get me level again, and then come up with a mental health plan for me to leave. And they have social workers in this new facility too and stuff. So I think ultimately, it'll be really great. And even 5 and 6 rooms, that's not very many, but it's a start. Like we always say on the show, we're very critical of new things, but also got to start somewhere, I guess. Yeah. So at least it's a start.
I think in some of this stuff, a step in the right direction is good as long as there's like follow through planned out, right?
Right. And that's kind of why I like the 2-night stay. There's kind of a follow through. It's not like, okay, you're in the emergency and we still have nowhere to put you, or we have no plan for you. At least they can stay for a couple of days and
then too, you think about, like, I'll use the flu again, but you think about the flu, right? You got people coming for the flu. They need equipment. You don't want someone who just needs needs a mental health professional or a counselor or some talk therapy or some, anxiety meds or whatever that is. You don't want those people taking up rooms of people that need like the heavier medical equipment, and vice versa, right? Like you don't want to have to shove someone who needs, heavy equipment to heal in a place where they don't have that. So I feel like it kind of balances that out in a way too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it'll be interesting to see in a year's time or whatever, how it's been running and what, I'm sure there'll be people with, criticisms, or there's always growing pains and new things like this. And
listen, dude, people would hate Santa Claus in this day and age. There's haters for everything.
He's a creep.
He's a creep.
Breaks in your house. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to dislike Santa, honestly.
Yeah. Well, here we go.
But
we'll have to cover
but I
that
agree.
at Christmas time.
But yeah, so hopefully that works out really well for Prince Edward Island. And
make sure you make a note for yourself so we can check in on that next year.
Every note I make, I lose. So, okay.
Noted.
There's many notes right there. I'll add to it.
I'm just kidding.
So yeah, that was a kind of a nice story. I'm trying to go nicer stories because the last little while I've been like, I leave this meeting a little depressed. So,
I mean,
or angry.
I changed one of my stories today because a new thing came out, but yeah, it was like the one was like too depressing. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So I picked a less depressing but still depressing one.
Okay, that's fair. I'm curious. I don't know unless there's more you want to say to this story.
No, I think like I said, I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm interested on the follow through.
Mm-hmm. Or of course, there could be a provincial election next year or something, and then it all changes anyway.
Kidding.
It's ideologies and funding changes, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Here too. We're this year for the U.S. presidential election. Buckle up, put on a helmet, a bulletproof vest, anything you can to protect yourself because all hell's about to break loose.
Yeah, you think so?
Yes.
I've kind of been putting on blinders. It's like, I don't want to know. Tell me when it's over.
Smart. It's just a shit show. It's a total shit show. But so I've got a little, I guess, slightly related to what we were talking about earlier. So my story today is actually a column in Psychology Today from Dr. Isabelle Morley, who is, full disclosure, a friend of mine and board member on the UCAN Foundation, the Unscripted Cast Advocacy Network, that I co-founded with her and Jeremy Hartwell to support reality cast members' mental health, legal support, and advocate for better working conditions in the industry. And she released a column on Psychology Today that is titled, "Why I Won't Ever Write About Love is Blind Again, a Personal Perspective, a Psychologist Guilt-Induced Plea." So why do I think that this article is timely? Well, currently, as we speak, the latest season 6, is airing. And full disclosure to those of you who don't know, I was on season 2 as a main cast member and have since started my foundation. And, I advocate very hard for change based on my experience and the experience of, well over 100 others who have reached out to the foundation. So getting that all out of the way, what I really wanted to talk about is her key points and her plea to viewers, because what I'm seeing happen, and it just keeps happening with these shows, is every season, every show, and this isn't just Love is Blind, but for the context of the article, it is the latest season, because there's so much bullying, hate, that I know for a fact cast members are receiving death threats
by general public people, or
yes. And on top of the death threats, I also am aware that several people from this cast have said what they are experiencing mental breakdowns. Okay. And in some cases, even being forced to continue filming a reunion episode. Okay. So this is getting to the point where it is literally like Gladiator games or the Hunger Games, where we are ripping our peers, like human beings. We're all peers. We're all in this together. And just because you see them on TV doing a certain thing or behaving a certain way, you have to remember you don't have the context. They can be edited out of order, anything whatsoever, not to mention the pressure of the thing. So back to the article. Her key points in this article, which link is below, is that we should consider reality TV to be fiction, given the influence of producers in editing, which I agree, which also we have a moveon.org petition, moveon.org/reality. And maybe I'll throw that link down here too, where we're just simply asking these producers to put a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode, right? Saying that these are highly edited for entertainment purposes only. Like basically like watch it like it's a show, enjoy it like it's a show. Don't think that these are accurate representations of who these people are. So I'm done pitching myself. So she also says, or my work, cast members on reality TV are not accurately portrayed as who they are in real life. And lastly, she says, in this light, analyzing cast members can lead to unfair public opinions that damage their mental health. So she really goes through in this article, which again is below, and talks about reality TV not being real, and we need to stop viewing it as that way. She also brought an interesting point up about expert opinions, and that experts who weigh in, other psychologists, mental health counselors that weigh in on these shows, and this one specifically right now, they weigh in on these shows based on the limited amount of information. And I've of course listened to some of them. I've even talked to some of them. I've been interviewed by them, and I've interviewed some of them myself. And so even when they admit, like, I don't have the full picture, which most of them do a good job of saying, like, based on what I'm seeing, or I don't have the full picture, I don't know this or this, or if I was working with them in this scenario, this is what I would do. And her thing was, she didn't want, her point here, she doesn't want to add her name to the mix of analyzing things without all of the context and the reality of the actual timeline of events of what happened. So I think that is something, she goes on that you signed up for it. You can read the article. I highly recommend it. But she had a plea to viewers. Do you have anything to comment so far? I'm just like going through this. I obviously have a lot of.
I know. Well, I mean, this is amazing, right? This is what you do. This is what you're passionate about right now. And so, no, I blab away. But full disclosure, I've been watching this season because my wife is a fan and we have a small house, so I can't help but.
You don't have to apologize or anything about watching it. That's not, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's weird because, right, if you watch, then you are kind of, I do feel like I'm supporting this production company. And it's like, I feel bad for watching, but also for us, it is entertainment. It's not, especially, because we know you and stuff now, we watch and we make comments and we analyze people too. Like, I'm pretty sure she has borderline personality, or that person, they've obviously have some, and then we both laugh because we're like, we have no idea actually what's going on. This is just what we're seeing. So,
but I also, I don't know for sure, but I would presume neither of you are going online and giving death threats or going on Reddit. It's like,
we don't even go to work and talk about the show. Like, we just kind of, she has a glass of wine and watches her show, and that's
I think a lot of people don't realize too that these are all storylines, and like there's elements of reality in them, but they're literally storylines, and it's all in this giant manufactured situation where you're being told where to go, what to do, what to talk about, all that stuff, and you're given alcohol. And it seems from what I understand, and apparently what I'm dubbing food propaganda, it seems like people are being fed a little bit better than I felt I was in my experience. But this public ridicule and thrashing of our peers, like these people are our peers, they just happen to be on TV, is just out of hand. And then to see the way that the productions drum this stuff up, and I mean, even the Netflix Instagram account was trolling one of the guys who was on there, and they didn't even tag him on it. Yeah, I mean, when you have like
it's like borderline evil.
I rest my
case. I try not to believe in good and evil. Like it's because it's like such a nuanced thing. But there's been a couple times the last couple of weeks where I've heard things where I'm like, maybe there is such a thing as evil.
So I think the reason I bring this up is because I know anytime the show comes out, a new season comes out, I have a dark cloud over me.
Yeah, and you've told me about that.
And like and now they come out twice a year. Like there's the anticipation of it coming, then there's the weeks that it's on, and everybody wants to know, what do you think? Well, I'm not watching it, right? So the toll that this takes on the cast members' mental health, I think is super important for people to realize. And it's funny because so many of the people that are mean, like have a God quote from the Bible or something in their profile. So and I use that as a blanket term for people that are like, oh, mental health advocates talking shit about people online. But the real conversation I was hoping to open up here was one, remind people of these people are real, and ask people to remember, why is there a villain in every single show of all the time, no matter what? It's because they're manufactured, right? Educate. And this is the plea that Dr. Isabelle made that I wanted us to share, that she made in her article today. And this is fresh because the show's out, the reunion's coming soon. So this is very fresh, right? But she wants people to enjoy reality TV, but be conscious consumer about it, which I think is fair, right? We're conscious consumers in what we buy, or some of us are, what we buy, what we don't buy, how, what we eat, stuff like that. So I think asking people to do the same thing with reality TV is good. And to remember, like, you're watching real people, and these are not necessarily organic situations. So it could be partially right, it could be completely incorrect, or it could be somewhere in between, but you're not getting the whole picture. And I think that's the part where I just want people to know that these are real people with real challenges that are now being showcased in front of the whole world, as opposed to in the privacy of your life. Like if someone has a cheating scandal, a mental breakdown, is just a dick, right? They can do that in the privacy of their own life very differently. But when these things are shared for the whole world, and I get they signed up to do, like, you don't know the whole story. So my thought there is, I would just like to see people have more empathy towards people, and educate yourself about how the shows are made, watch them for entertainment only. And then if you hate someone on screen, which is her third point, don't tell them. You don't have to tell them. You don't know the real story. And then I would take it a step further, and I tell people, if you find yourself feeling the need to hate someone that you don't know, or comment on someone's social media that you don't know, or go on Reddit and speculate and gossip about somebody you don't know, look inside and figure out, what is it in me that makes me want to do this? And then address that, because that's going to get you a hell of a lot farther than spewing hate on the internet. And I also, lastly, and then I'm going to just let you take over, I had thought about this back when I was going through the show coming out and all of the commentary going on about me and my relationship, from both mental health professionals, but also from just regular old people who commentate on reality TV. And I remember, like, I used to feel kind of like, I don't know if it was worse. It would feel different. I think she touched on this, and I don't think people talk about it. When I would see a psychologist or a therapist or a couples counselor commenting on my relationship, and it would be, and again, they seem to do it like with more grace, but if they didn't get something right, or they did get something right, even if it wasn't like about a scene or it was about something going on, like, it kind of hurt a little bit, because it's like, they don't know me. And here they are, like, with their platform and their expertise, and they didn't know our relationship or what it was like, the whole process of going through the show. So, like, having them weigh in did have more gravitas. It did feel heavier. It did impact me more. So I think her plea to encourage experts in relationships and mental health to be ethical in the way that they do these, because people will look at someone's commentary on a relationship who's a couples counselor or couples therapist or whatever, and it'll have more gravitas, and maybe it'll make them feel vindicated, right? And then they'll be more confident to go be a bully online.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's really, really good point. That's an amazing article that she's actually, like, basically making a call out to all other psychologists and people, and be like, hey, maybe let's cool it on this, because I mean, you could make a commentary about Mr. White on Breaking Bad. It's basically the same thing. It's a character on a TV show that you know nothing about, that production has manipulated or whatever to look like this. but no one's going on to Bryan Cranston's Instagram and threatening him.
Yeah.
You're
a meth dealer. I'm going to kill you.
It reminds me of like, yeah, it reminds me of like there was, is it Misery or in the 80s? I remember there was like people that would like find an actor that was on their favorite soap opera and be like, I hate you because you cheated on so-and-so. And people thought they were nuts, right?
Yeah.
Now
there's a whole Friends episode about that.
And now everybody's doing it, and no one thinks it's nuts. It's like, it's the same thing. This is a TV show.
Yeah, these are like modern day soap operas, right? And that's the issue. But like people can't.
But these are real people,
right? But people can't.
And it's still make believe.
Yeah, it's hard to make. Like Isabelle said this to me before, because it keeps me up at night wondering who thinks they should be mean to somebody online from a TV show. It keeps me up at night. I would never do, even if I watch him, like that guy's a idiot or whatever, what a loser, what a cheater, whatever the insult and assumption is. I would never go write it on their social media or gossip about it on Reddit. Like I would just take it as, well, poor, that sucks to be that guy. Like, move on.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how long have I known you? And like, I watch a lot of reality TV. I never question or ask you anything about the show ever, other than like our initial interview because of UCAN and the foundation and stuff. Because I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I just, who does that? Like, if you want to tell me stuff, that's awesome. Like, I'm open to listen to stuff, but I'm not going to, even someone I consider you a friend. I'm not going to pry. Well, and I'm definitely not going to go on someone's post something on there. I think I have a different approach than a lot of people from reality TV too. Like this is something that I did. It's not something that defines me. It's not who I am. Right.
And so when I think about that, and that's probably why I'm not like the most popular of all, because I don't care about the drama. Like I just want people to be okay, because I went through this and I went through it with, my ex-wife, and I saw what it did to her, and I know what it's done to me, and I know that it lingers to this moment, it lingers. And I just don't feel like it's a healthy place for us to be at as a society when we look at other human beings like this. And we attack them for something that happened on a TV show. It just seems crazy to me. It's just it's like a foreign concept. But Isabelle says, she's like, it's the way it's presented and the way the human mind works is that it wants to believe what it sees, even if in the back of your head which is true, right? Like I'll watch a documentary and I'll be like, I'll have to, even though I know they're still telling a story, you have to like remind yourself, this is a story. I'm being told a story. And yeah, there's facts in it and there's reality in it, but there's still a story being told. So it isn't a complete representation of reality.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an agenda there.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, even last night when we were watching some of the conversations, that the people are having, I'm like, this conversation is so fake. Guaranteed a producer went up and said, you guys go over there and talk about this now so that we can, it was like or it was like they're reenacting conversation they've already had or stuff. Like it's like, how can people not see this? How can people not realize that this is?
I have no idea.
This is just.
I almost feel like people do on some level know, but they get like very reactive and very triggered by something that they see, and I think that's when it kind of like falls apart, and there's that disconnect happens. I think that's a lot of what happens. I also think, and this is fair, like people, I watch a movie or a TV show. I do it to escape. I do it to let my mind wander. Right. And I think that's a good thing about this, but then there's the whole people like can't make that disconnect that like what I'm seeing in front of me that's been told to me, it's real. And that it's basically a documentary crew following people around. That's not true. Yeah. And to attack someone and hurt their mental health and I'm all for showing support too. Like I think if you like someone on a show or something, you should support them. If you don't, just don't say anything. And I think that's or if you want to talk about it with your friends, like I have plenty of friends that talk about the housewives. Cool. I don't have anything to contribute to that, but I'll talk about things they don't have anything to contribute to, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But like, you don't have to be mean to people. And I think it's just a very sad reflection on where we are as a society. And I think we can do better. And I'm proud of Dr. Isabelle for taking this stance and writing about her own reflections and guilt, which I don't think she should have, right? You don't know what you don't know, but now we're trying to tell people so they know. So
right. Yeah. No, I appreciate her work. I appreciate your work because it's, and I think you're right that it says more about the people commenting than it does the people they're commenting to.
But it still
which
impacts
is sad.
them. It
Absolutely,
still impacts them, even if they know that.
For sure. I wish I could, because I don't know how many conversations we've had where you've brought up something about the foundation or something, and I see you just see how passionate and heated you get. It's like I wish, I don't know, I wish I could say or do something for you to separate yourself from it. And
well,
I know I'd be
that,
the same way as you. I would just get as bothered.
Yeah, it's me though. Like I have to draw the lines.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. Is
but I get the same way with like when I read articles like we do about mental health stuff, and I get like furious, and it's like, okay, take a step back. Yeah. Anyway, sorry that you have been hurt and that.
Well, it's more, I want to turn my experience and the experiences I'm learning of other people and just flip the mirror so people can like see themselves in this and not project, whatever they have going on inside onto reality cast members that they don't know, that they don't really understand their story, and that there's so much speculation and people can't speak up because of the contract. There's NDAs in there. So even if you've been defamed, you've been edited out of order, you've been lied about, and that's the storyline, they can't defend themselves without risk of being sued. And so imagine
it's a trap.
It is. Imagine being in a situation where you're being publicly lied about, shamed, embarrassed, and defamed, and you legally, which I argue whether or not it's legal, you legally can't tell the truth. You can't talk about your experience. That's what they're going through. So this is like it's not just the hate. It's the fact that we have an innate thing inside of us to defend ourselves and speak about our truth and our experience. And those are being shut down and silenced. So they can't even. So they just have to take it. It's like going into a boxing fight and just not putting your hands up, not being able to throw a punch, and everybody can just come in and throw a couple punches. So be kind. Be kind to your favorite, and even more so to your least favorite. And by being kind to your least favorite means just don't do anything or say anything.
Exactly. It's just a TV show that's made up. They just don't have to pay actors. Okay. Well, that was a hot take. I mean, it's good. It was good.
Well, I was going to initially do another AI story, which I might, but it's about like, it was kind of depressing. It was about AI being used to like recreate deceased relatives and the impacts that would have on mental health.
I almost did that one because I brought it up the other day. When we were talking, I brought it up and I was like, hey, here's the article about it. And I was like, I don't want to talk about AI again.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back again next week.
We'd love to hear your comments and concerns. And if you have any articles or anything you would like for us to cover or to look at, feel free to reach out to us. But be kind to us, okay? We're real people. Till next week.
See ya. This has been our Mental Health Headline Hot Takes.
We're so glad you came.
Remember, when you heal yourself,
you heal the world.
Be sure to like this video, leave comments, and suggest articles for future episodes.
Hit subscribe to Eyes Wide Open
and Bunny Hugs and Mental Health.